butcher knows how to pick out a prime cut. What happens when those same eyes start picking out laser cutting components? Welcome to Weld, where each week we explore different pathways available in the welding industry. I'm your host, Beau Wigington, and this week we're heading back to FABTECH to visit the Hero Machine Co. booth to talk with owner Adam Heffner about his journey from a family meat business to building lasers that are saving people thousands of dollars over traditional plasma cutting. We dive in right now. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience just in case they're not familiar with you and what you do?
I am Adam Heffner with Hero Machine Co. I started life in a family meat business, actually. So I'm third generation butcher, and that's where I learned all the business skills. And I tell everybody that business is a trade, just like metal fabrication is a trade. So a lot of people have trade skills, but they don't have the business skills to go along with it. So, I mean, everybody listening to the show knows how to weld stuff, how to fabricate, how to cut. But when you want to turn that into a business and actually start making money, there's a lot of kind of just stuff you have to overcome personally. I found that a lot of my limitations are kind of my character defects. So I was able to work through those in this family business, working for my dad. And my grandpa started with a kill truck back in the 50s. So this place was actually 50-year business. We were running, about 25 million a year in revenue and had 130 employees. It was big operation.
Big business.
We're running like 250,000 pounds of meat out the door every single day in this place. So I learned business, but that place unfortunately went out of business. That's a whole other story. But the basics of it were, my wife was pregnant 3 months and I lost my job. I lost my insurance. So I was standing in my front yard. Me and my neighbor just cut our grass. And I said, it's just kind of down in the dumps, obviously. This is a pivotal time in my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, man, I need insurance. I don't know what I'm going to do. I had these corporate job offers, from in the meat world where I could have gone and done a white collar, meat manager kind of job at a big grocery chain. But I didn't want to do that. I was into metal fabricating because while that place was winding down, I was super stressed out. And that's when I started building my first truggy. So I took an F-250 and did the solid axle swap up front, built an exo cage for it, a flatbed. And that's where I really learned how to fabricate metal, was making this rock crawler, because my dad had a big budget. So he had the brand new JK rock jocks, like the everything you could buy to bolt on this thing, he had it. And I had to keep up with him on the trail. We had a full shop for the meat company. So I had every kind of welder and fabrication tool back there. And he let me cut out this old scaffolding and use that material to make my flatbed out of, and even use the tube off of it. It wasn't DOM, but it was free.
Hey,
and
it works.
So
if it works, right?
Yeah, I made an HREW exo cage for this 250, and we smashed some trails, man. We did the Rubicon, we did Moab, we did Hollister Hills, and had a really good time. And that's what got me into fabricating, was rock crawlers. So I really needed insurance. And my buddy's like, dude, I got badass insurance. I'm in the ironworkers union. They're hiring people left and right now. So I, thought, really want to get more into metal fabrication. And they have all the training, they have all the support. And I had no idea what an ironworker was. We were building a prison at the time. So I showed up with a freaking resume to an ironworker interview to get my sponsorship letter to get into the union. And they were like, who are you? And 3 superintendents from this company all pulled me in an office, and they tried to talk me out of joining the Ironworkers Union. They're like, you got to have at least 1 divorce, a DUI, or a felony to work here. They're like, this is not the place for you. Everything's hard, hot, and heavy. You got these soft hands. You don't know what you're doing. And they tried to talk me out of it for like 30 minutes. And I was like, look, guys, I need a job. I need something I can be successful at. And I need a win right now in my life, because I'm beat up. And I just saw ironwork as something I could be successful at. So they actually made me the quality control manager for the first year I was an ironworker. So I wasn't doing any ironwork my first year. They gave me a laptop, a buggy, and that's how I got in the Ironworkers Union. So from there, I did structural, and then structural ran out, and I did rebar for a year, which, if you guys have done rebar,
it's a lot of fun.
Hats off to you. Rebar is the hardest physical labor that's still legal in the United States. Like every other job this hard, they've figured out some way to automate it, but there's no way to pack and place iron other than putting it on your back and getting it over there. So, I did that for a year, and then, we decided to start this business because I was moonlighting as a fabricator out of my garage constantly. This entire time, every night and weekend, I'm in the shop picking up new fab skills. That's when I built my first press brake, was back then in my garage. These 2 bottle jacks from Harbor Freight.
Hey.
And some I-beams that I got off the job. So it was super rigid. You know, I didn't have to worry about anti-crowning or anything. I just put so much freaking metal in that thing that it wasn't going to move an inch.
That's awesome.
You know, and that's where I started like really getting the bug to build my own equipment. And, you know, I've done the math now and it doesn't totally make sense to build your own equipment because there's a lot of things there. But I learned a lot. So I was in that mode and I was like, I can build everything. My mantra was make the means of production. This is the Communist Manifesto. He says, seize the means of production, was like the communist kind of way, like go take the factory away from the bourgeoisie and you know, the people are going to rise up. And I kind of retooled that and I was like, let's not seize the means of production. What if we can make the means of production? And I started seeing all these open source controllers and YouTube channels and forums where people were sharing how they were building this equipment, how they were powering it, how it was running. And I got super motivated and excited about making my own equipment and keeping up with these much larger companies that had stuff that I couldn't compete with. You know, I had the skill, I could make all these things if I could afford the equipment, but I just couldn't afford the equipment. So I thought I'm going to make all the equipment. You know, so I went down that road for a while, and that's what led us to move from California to Nashville. So we sold our house. I pulled all the money out of that, and I started buying the parts for a plasma table. And so I was still ironworking. Ironworked here for 2 more years. I built GM, HCA, a couple like 20-story towers and stuff. And I stacked some money. I saved a bunch up. I worked 7/12s for the 2 years I was in Nashville, saved all that money, bought the parts, and then I got a layoff finally. I was like begging for a layoff. I was like,
please, let me just have a break.
Just lay me off, give me some unemployment, and I'm going to build this plasma table and then go back to work. So that was the whole plan. I was like, give me a month. I'm going to build this plasma table and I'm going to keep doing my weekend stuff. And then I'll pick up like a 40-hour job and I'll just do this on the weekends till it grows. And my whole goal was to be around my kids. I've got 2 daughters and a wife, and ironwork does a lot of road time and away from the home. And I really just wanted to spend more time with my kids. So I thought, if I have this home business, I can raise my kids and show them, you know, work ethic and teach them about a business just like I was raised in and really taught me a lot. And I wanted to pass on those skills and those traits and those values and the morals that come along with growing a business and doing the thing and showing up over and over for your customers that need you, you know? And so the whole plan was I was going to work out of my garage until they graduated high school. So fast forward, plasma table worked. I started working on the website and I couldn't get the insurance to actually do any of the structural stuff that I knew how to do. So insurance was like a huge hurdle for me to get over, where I knew how to do all the structural stuff. I was doing specialty rigging, like sliding in HVAC units that are 20,000 pounds into the side of buildings, or like putting cranes in the side of buildings, using, doing tandem lifts with 2 cranes at a time, tripping panels up. And then I go out for myself. They're like, you can't do this. You're not qualified. And I'm like, what? Qualified? I'm like, I got all these certifications. Like, I'm a TVA rigger. I can rig on a nuclear site. Yeah. And you're saying I don't know how to do this, but insurance companies are what they are. So first year I could do nothing critical. So that's what pushed me into doing the signs and the home decor. Is I was really hamstrung. And I think enough time has gone by. I could say this. Every weekend I was doing critical work that the insurance company was not happy with. But I wasn't posting any of it. You know, I was like doing, repairing dump trailers, working on hydraulics, making fixtures and jigs for factories around me out of my garage. So I was like working on the website, you know, running this plasma table, making artwork during the week. And then weekends I'd go and do, you know, my critical work that was paying the bills. So I never had to go back to ironworking. And I just kept building this business and kept finding customers and kept making enough money to not go back. And I kept paying my union dues because that was my safety net. I'm like, I can always go back to that. Like, I will never be less than a welder, you know? So if I go and screw this up and it's not successful, worst case scenario, I'm back where I started from, and I didn't want to die with the dream. You know, I didn't want to get old and be wondering what if, or like if I had just done that or just tried that or just given it everything, then, I would have known. And I didn't want to get old and die with that regret of not knowing. I read a book that said you have to spend 10,000 hours to become an expert.
Oh, yes.
Right?
I heard that.
So have you done the math on that?
What do you mean?
So 7/10 for 3 years is 10,000 hours. So I read that book and I said, well, shit, I've been working 7/12s for the last 4 years. So I can do 7/10s for myself. So that was the goal. I said, if I give this 7/10s for 3 years and it's not successful, I'm out. Everybody that's actually done it, if you try and give it your all and fail, dude, they are so supportive. Real business people are like, dude, we understand. I respect what you're doing. You gave it everything, and they're gonna commiserate with you because every business has success and failure, and they understand that failure is part of it, and they're not judgmental. So anybody judging you just hasn't done it. So why listen to them?
The 7/10s that you're talking about, what were you doing in that 7/10 work week? What was the work that you were doing?
Monday through Thursday, I was working on the website and adding products, and I was doing a lot of custom signs and home decor. And so every single custom job I did, as long as it wasn't somebody's logo, but if it was a design for somebody's kitchen, I would take a picture of it and list it on my website. So I was getting paid for my new items.
Nice.
I wasn't posting any new items because I went out and tried to make all the stuff that I thought was cool. None of that sells. Nobody likes the stuff I like.
No.
They just
want live, laugh, love.
Bro, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Live, laugh, love, family.
Yeah. Kitchen.
Home is where the kitchen is. Yeah.
Bro,
those type of things.
It's not my style. It's not my motif, but that's what paid the bills.
That's what people want, man.
And if people voted with their dollar for a custom sign, chances are somebody else is going to also want that custom sign because it was valuable enough for somebody to pay for it. So that became my big signal was somebody's requesting this. Somebody else is probably going to request this.
I'll make a bunch of them.
Yeah. So Monday through Thursday, I'm doing that and chasing my tail with the retail stuff. And then Friday through Sunday, I was picking up any fab job I could find in the local community. So I got in with a logging service, and that dude tore up every truck, every trailer, every skidder. I mean, every piece of equipment he had, something was breaking every single week. Yeah. And he was in some big emergency. And I was working the weekends. So his guys are off on the weekends. So he'd drop off the equipment. I'd cut some lugs out, weld it on there, repair something. He twisted a frame on one of his dump beds. I straightened out his whole frame, boxed in the frame rails, beefed the whole thing up, fixed the hydraulics, and got him running again. And that was the weekend. So, I did that for, pretty much about the first 2 years. And then I realized this is too big for my house. We were painting stuff in my master bedroom. So my master bedroom was a paint booth for clear coat. So we were going to sleep, me and my wife, and you lay down.
Have weird dreams.
No, dude, you feel like you're doing a backflip, but you never get all the way around. So our bedroom was the paint booth. The office was the shipping room. The kitchen was the office. The garage was the manufacturing. Our cars were all the shipping vehicles. We didn't have powder coat in-house at the time, so we're subbing out powder coat. We're bringing powder coat to a shop, bringing it back, packaging them up, bringing them to the post office because the post office wouldn't pick up at my house anymore. We had too many things.
Dang.
Yeah.
These people, come on.
Dude, the postman hated me.
What was the catalyst in the sign world that made you want to look for different options?
I actually tried to do Hero Machine Co. 6 years ago. This was my plan. I really wanted to bring people machines. Mm-hmm. So I found this guy on eBay. I mean, this is a sordid tale here, folks.
This is. This is my kind of tale.
I found this guy on eBay who had a laser for he had $20K or something on the price. And so I shoot him a message. He calls me back. He's just good old Kentucky boy, an old guy. And we start talking. And of course, the price was not 20 grand. It was more like 150 or 200 grand. But we walked up the chain and I realized, I think this is something I can afford, So I went and talked to my accountant. And I was like, hey, in the next year, I want to buy a laser. So he went through my books real quick and he goes, you need a laser right now. He goes, I'm on the board of directors of the bank across the street. Let's go get you some money for a laser. So he walked me across the street and he's like, Susan, this is Adam. Adam's the real deal. He's doing it. You want to give him money. And then I sat down and he walked out. And I got the loan. So I had the money, I had the contact, but I wasn't confident that I was actually going to get like a freaking laser out of this guy from eBay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So he's telling me he's making these things at a factory in China. And I'm like, well, ticket to China is $3,000. I'm going to China, you know?
Yeah.
So me and my wife, we flew over to China and we checked out this factory and everything checked out. Like I tapped into a supply chain that a lot of these other factories that are here at FABTECH are using. And I'm not going to call anybody out. That's not what I'm here to do. But we all know that this stuff is coming from overseas.
Yeah.
Like it's not a secret. You have a Milwaukee tool, you have a phone in your pocket. They're all coming from overseas. So they make good stuff. They make crappy stuff. You know, you just got to basically suss it out and make sure they've got the quality nailed. So I flew over there, found this factory, and I ordered a laser, right? So, and I thought I'm going to be selling lasers and plasma tables. So I had some plasma tables made there and my laser, and I brought them into Tennessee and the pandemic hit.
Oh, no.
So the original plan was they were going to fly engineers over and help me do the training and all the support. But my translator over there, he got welded into his apartment.
What?
They welded the gate shut on his apartment because somebody got COVID. Nobody's at the factory. Nobody's working over there. Everything's shut down. And I'm stuck with this laser that I can't really, I don't think I can afford if it's not running. So it took me 6 months to put this laser together by myself, get it running, set the parameters, and actually start making money with it. So this whole time I'm making the payments. And at the time, these are humongous payments for me. Like this is serious life-stretching kind of a thing that I'm doing. So for 6 months, I threw myself at this laser and I'm like, look, I have to figure this out or I'm going to go bankrupt. This was too big of a swing for me.
Yeah.
So in the process, I figured it out. You know, I got the laser running and, but I didn't advertise Hero Machine Co. I started for a blip. So if you scroll way back on the Instagram feed, you'll see some of the old original stuff when I was first bringing it in. And I just scrapped the whole project because I was like, I can't be successful yet. This isn't put together well enough. I don't have the support and I can't get any spare parts. I was like ordering the spare parts on my own off of eBay. I got kind of gun shy about the whole equipment thing. And that's when I got into the architectural fabrication. I was like, look, Hero Machine Co. is not happening. I have the insurance. Let's go chase the work I know how to do. Because part of the ironworker scope is architectural metalwork.
Yeah.
And I did a few architectural jobs and really enjoyed it. So that's where I got into handrail and hanging bars and glass railing. Architects will draw stuff that they can't buy. And they need somebody to make it. And their drawings are not constructible. So they need somebody to make that translation between their vision of this architectural, scope item and actually turn it into something constructible. So we had to learn the drafting side of it so we could redraw this stuff, show them how it goes together.
Yeah.
And then, do the submittals and the finished submittals as well. And then turn that into a finished product and deliver it on time and install it. One leads to another. And if you do good work, your reputation will carry you a long way because once a contractor finds a good sub, dude, they keep you close to the chest. So that's the deal. Is be on time and answer their call. Like that's the trick to getting with contractors. If you can be on time, then they're all about it because they're dealing with many times escalation charges.
Yeah.
So like we were doing a Hilton hotel 2 years ago and they had already sold out the hotel. Every room was booked. So every single day that you delayed that job was $30,000 fine and escalation fees.
Oh.
Because they were going to refund all those reservations.
Yeah.
So timing is so critical in construction and architectural metals. You're the last ones in the building. So everybody else's delay becomes your rush. And at that point, they just don't care because they're looking at $30,000 a day.
Yeah.
So like, we don't care what it takes. Just
let's get it done.
Just get it here. So, the retail side is running well. My wife runs that. And then the architectural side, I have Scott is my GM and he's been with me now for like 7 years and he knows everything about our business and he runs that side. So last year I was honestly getting kind of bored.
You're like, I ain't got nothing to do.
Yeah, we had some cool systems. We've got an MRP system that, has these, everything built into workstations. So when the work leaves your station, it automatically checks out of yours and checks into the next guy's and pops up on a screen. So it's super organized. We've got the inventory worked out where we don't run out of stuff anymore. So a lot of those little day-to-day fights of running a business, we were able to, I'm not going to say automate, but we were able to build systems that
Optimize.
optimize.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really get us to a point where we could scale. So last year we moved into our new building and I spent that year just organizing the business. So we didn't chase any new customers, we didn't chase any new business, we didn't make a lot of profit, but we just focused on all of our processes and how we do things and made them more efficient and more streamlined. And that's what opened me up to have the time to go and chase Hero Machine Co. again. Because I'm like, that was such a good idea. And so many people need the machines to compete with the bigger guys down the street. And they think they can't afford them. And I know about this supply chain. I know where to get these things where guys can afford the machines. And I know how to get the quality and I know how to service them. So I need to do that because that's part of my core mission is to grow manufacturing in the United States. And, you know, like I'm an Eagle Scout. I have Patriot tattooed on my stomach. Like I'm hardcore American, but I also a hardcore businessman. And there's just certain things that make sense. And there's certain things that don't. So I'm willing to put myself out there and stand behind this equipment. And I'm chasing down every single order that I get. I fly over to the factory and I do a QC check on site before it gets loaded in the container. And I load the container up. So I know exactly what's going in there. Because there's a lot of bait and switch that happens.
What is the hero?
Okay.
Because a lot of people, you might think that the machine is the hero, but that's not what we're going for.
I'm really, really glad you brought this up because I don't know how to package this tight enough for a social media 15-second clip. But the whole point of this is when I got this equipment, I felt like a hero of my shop. So the hero's journey is like a classic storytelling structure. So there's like a regular guy, right? And then he realizes he has this power or can get this power. And then something terrible happens. And then they emerge transformed as this new human. And now they're a superhero. So buying a laser to me felt like the same journey. So as this normal guy, I found this superpower of a laser that would transform me. And then I went through this dark time of, you know, the struggle bus, paying for it and putting it together without any support. And then once I got it running, I emerged as hero. Like we made tons of profit. We like streamlined everything. We reduced our labor, our quality increased. Like we could just make stuff that these huge shops could also make, but like we could do it at, you know, 30% less cost than they could because we just didn't have the overhead.
Yeah.
And so now we're competing on a whole other level. So we're like Joe Schmo, regular dude, and we're in meetings with guys that have multi-million-dollar operations and we're competing with them for bids and winning them.
That's awesome.
You know, so the goal of Hero Machine Co. was to make the customers the hero. So it's that process of going through the pain and transforming who you are and preparing yourself to take this jump that turns you into a hero. And then you get this equipment that's super powerful, really competitive, and now you're winning and you're the hero in your shop. So that's the name Hero Machine Co. And you are a hero if you're building jobs in your community that matter to people and have impact. Like absolutely every single entrepreneur, in my opinion, is a hero because you know you're taking the risk and you're doing the things.
I've got a plasma table. All right. I'm already kind of a hero. What's the difference between a plasma table and a laser table?
We sell plasma tables also that they'll be done at the end of this year. I'm still, you know, finishing out the last kinks. A plasma is often the stepping stone to get into a laser. People don't start with a laser, you know, but as soon as you're cutting more than about 40 hours a month, the math starts changing. And the math is really your consumable cost on a plasma. You're spending about, you know, $30 for a set of consumables, and that lasts you about 1,000 pierces. And then every hour you're plasma cutting, you also have an hour of cleanup time before that part is actually ready to go to your fabrication department. So once you factor in the labor cost and the consumable cost versus a laser, which a laser, you have a $6 lower lens that you replace once a week, and your post-processing cleanup is about 5 minutes for every hour of cutting. So you've changed the unit economics of your shop so that the breakover I see is somewhere between, you know, 40 and 55 hours a month of cutting. You really should have a laser at that point. So if you're growing something and you're cutting maybe 20 hours, but you know you could grow it with a laser, just jump to a laser because you know you can find the business and you can be cheaper than the big shops around you that have lasers because they spend $1 million on their laser. How much are they charging? They're charging a lot because they have a huge laser payment that they have to pay off. If you come in with a laser payment that's a third of the cost of theirs, your shop rate is now lower and you can cut the same freaking thing they can.
I think everybody is always just like lasers. It's crazy power. Is that right or is that wrong?
No, I mean, power is a huge deal. But what I did is I made a 2 kilowatt machine that can run on single phase 220 volt power. It's the exact same power you have on your plasma table. You can literally unplug your plasma table and be cutting 5/8 thick mild steel with a 2 kilowatt fiber laser right in your shop. So that's what I'm trying to get out is the cost of lasers is coming down so quickly right now that it makes more and more sense to adopt a laser in your shop. But there's a lot of people where a plasma table makes sense. If you're doing it for a hobby or you have a new idea and you don't want to get into debt and you need to, basically prove out this new idea you have, plasma is a great solution. And the same skills you learn with CAD, CAM, cut apply to a laser as well as they do a plasma table. So it's like the proving ground. If you can work a plasma table and get that thing running and start booking some hours on it, now you qualify for a laser. You should have a laser. You don't even need a special air compressor. You just run a regular old 10 horse piston air compressor and you can be cruising on a 2 kilowatt laser. Yeah, so, it's the air compressor they have, the air dryer they have, the power they have. It's literally unplug the plasma, plug in the laser, now you're a laser shop.
Hey. And so I'm just taking all of this in. It seems a lot more simple than a lot of people make it seem.
That's the whole mission, man. It's like, I've got the show special up here, the $69,000 2 kilowatt fiber laser. They're like, how are you doing that? And then it starts the whole conversation going and people realize that maybe I can't afford a laser. So many conversations I've had this week are people like asking me the hard questions just like you. And they're kind of like blown away. And they're like, wait, what are you saying here?
You're saying this is possible?
It's totally possible, and you don't have to be an exceptional human being to qualify.
I feel like we have gone all over the place today, but if people want to learn more about the machines that you're selling now, or they want to learn more about lasers in general, where do they find all your content?
My favorite place is YouTube. That's where the stuff lasts longer than 3 seconds. I'm on all the social media platforms, but that's not the meat and potatoes. That's just the highlight reel, the wild antics. But YouTube is really where I connect. I do a live show every Friday at 6 p.m. Central Time and, do Q&As and talk to people. And that's where I'm also posting the content about how to do CAD, how to do this machine costing, how to figure out a shop rate, how to figure out equipment rate, how to bid jobs. I'm trying to get into the nitty gritty stuff that people need to build and grow, a small business into something that can really utilize a laser. So please check me out on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, dude. Let me know if something
sucks. Hit those comments.
Bro, I'm down. Like I'm not a snowflake. I can handle bad news. Give it to me. But if something's good and you connect with it, man, please send me a message. I think a third of the people that have come to the booth this week have been from YouTube.
That's awesome.
And I don't have a lot of viewers. I'm not super successful on there, but somehow the algorithm is the 1,000 views I got on that video.
They're all here.
Are the 1,000 people that are at FABTECH somehow.
Well, I appreciate it, man. This has been a wild, wild journey. And go check out HeroMachineCo.com.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Weld, and a huge thank you to Adam and everybody over at the Hero Machine Co. booth for having us and talking with me and sharing this crazy story. If you want to level up your cutting power, follow the link down below to check out their site, or I highly recommend you follow them on social media because Adam is dropping some major knowledge daily. Check it out. I really enjoy his content, and I think you will too. I appreciate everyone who's been tuning in and learning with me. And just to give you a heads up, we are going to be moving the podcast to its very own channel here coming up soon. So we're going to be a little quiet for the next month or so, but don't worry. We got new formats where we're going to do deep dives, recaps, all kinds of things. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you out there.